So I think the Bills will win the division. But I do think, Nick, just objectively looking at it, that there are enough question marks about Buffalo to where you could put the Patriots in. Now, the Patriots' schedule is a monster.
Bills' schedule is almost as hard.
Yeah, Bills has got to be close. But with you got a new head coach, and we've seen. I think Brady's going to be fine. But we have seen great coordinators that weren't great head coaches. He's in the same place. You would think it'll go well, but it's still a question mark. Defensively, there is no doubt Sean McDermott was a huge part of that defense because they had injury after injury after injury, seemingly year after year, and he kept them atop the league defensively, or, in the top 10 every year in the regular season. So that is a big question mark. Okay. They still don't have a number one receiver. Maybe they'll get one, but right now they don't. And so I don't, like, this year we've been saying this wasn't their best team, but this was their best opportunity since the Chiefs are out. Well, what's changed other than coaching turmoil? So I just think there are a lot of questions about them where I don't think you should objectively put them number one in the division.
So the schedule piece is really interesting because as tough as the Pats schedule is, and some of that is home road stuff, and I don't have the Bills road schedule committed to memory. Because of the way the NFL scheduling works, the Bills and Patriots play the exact same games except for your 3 strength of schedule games. And as it happens, so the 3 divisions that the Patriots play the winners of, I bet this side of the table is going to be like, oh, damn, second place might be tougher.
Yeah.
So where the Patriots have the Jags, the Bills have the Texans.
Not good.
Where the Patriots have Pittsburgh, the Bills have Baltimore. And where the Patriots have Seattle, the Bills have the Rams, which are 2 excellent. So to me, they have basically identical difficulty of schedule. And so it really comes down to, do you think is either of these teams likely to take a big step forward next year? I would say no. Is either of these teams likely to take at least a somewhat significant step back? And that's where I will say yes to the Patriots.
Oh, because I'm shocked.
So this is where the playoff run impacts my projection.
Okay.
I am less confident that when you play this level of schedule, you are going to get consistent A-level quarterback play.
Every time this particular conversation resurfaces, I'm forcefully reminded of just how little stock I actually place in these kinds of predictive exercises. It's almost amusing to reflect on because, looking back over the last couple of seasons, I used to create content reacting to a very specific and persistent theme in the NFL media landscape: the perceived disrespect toward the Kansas City Chiefs. There were countless takes, with Nick often leading the charge, arguing that the Chiefs should be installed as favorites to win the Super Bowl every single year, without exception. They should win their division handily, and any oddsmaker or analyst who suggested otherwise was engaging in blatant disrespect. My response to that line of thinking was always the same. This is just conversation. It's fodder for debate. It's not personal disrespect. It's analysis based on roster turnover, strength of schedule, and 100 other variables. And now here we find ourselves in a completely inverted scenario. The Buffalo Bills are the ones being favored, and suddenly there's no room for that familiar "this is disrespectful" narrative to be deployed on behalf of Josh Allen. But the question inevitably arises: is it disrespectful to Drake May and the New England Patriots? My approach to this is relatively straightforward and, I think, grounded in logic rather than emotional attachment to any particular quarterback or franchise. I do not subscribe to the idea that we're about to witness some dramatic step backward in quarterback play from Drake May, which is a scenario Nick seemed to be trying to emphasize as a real possibility. The kid is talented, he's shown flashes, and he's in a stable environment. However, what I can say with absolute certainty is that you possess exponentially more confidence in Josh Allen's ability to deliver consistently great, consistently elite-level performance season after season after season. That's not a knock on May. It's simply an acknowledgement of reality. Drake May has not yet earned the right to have that kind of unwavering confidence placed in his resume because he has never done it. He has never stacked those elite seasons back to back to back. Josh Allen, on the other hand, has done exactly that year after year after year. In my estimation, Josh Allen is the best quarterback in the National Football League right now. I'm actually in the process of assembling another video, likely recording tonight and posting tomorrow, that will dive deep into the data to substantiate that claim. It's requiring me to compile a significant amount of information, and I have to determine how far back I want to go in the historical data to build a comprehensive case. I'll need to evaluate numerous quarterbacks across multiple seasons to definitively prove why Josh Allen stands alone at the summit of the position. It's a bit of an undertaking, honestly, and it's stressing me out trying to figure out the most effective way to present it. But the underlying motivation is simple. The slander directed at Josh Allen has become absolutely obnoxious, and the consistent downplaying of his greatness is equally tiresome. It needs to be addressed with facts. Setting all of that aside and looking specifically at the dynamic between the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots, and yes, technically the New York Jets and Miami Dolphins exist within the division, but for the purposes of this specific comparison, we're going to focus on the two teams that actually warrant serious discussion. There are some interesting factors at play. I do believe that the New England Patriots at this exact moment have a smoother, more settled coaching situation on both sides of the football. They're not integrating an entirely new head coach and an entirely new system. The continuity is there. For the Bills, while they have promoted from within, there is still an element of transition. It's also fair, I think, to acknowledge that the Patriots organization has, over time, earned the right to be viewed as a better-run franchise. They have a track record of making sound decisions in the offseason, in the draft, and in personnel management that commands a certain level of respect. But we have to circle back to the most important factor, the one that ultimately trumps all others in this league. The Buffalo Bills have Josh Allen. They have the best quarterback on the planet. They have a genuine physical monster under center. And that leads me to my single biggest concern, the most significant question mark I have regarding the Bills' immediate future. Can Josh Allen continue to physically withstand the burden of being Superman year after year? Over these last couple of seasons, we have watched his body absorb an unbelievable amount of punishment. We've seen the injuries accumulate, the hand, the wrist, the knee, the foot. There was all that discussion surrounding Drake May and his shoulder, with the headline being that he doesn't require surgery. That's presented as positive news, and it is. But juxtapose that with Josh Allen, who did require surgery on his foot. Let me offer some perspective here, speaking as someone who has been injured more times than I care to count. I know I repeat that frequently, but it informs my view on this. Surgery is always, always a last resort. Any legitimate world-class surgeon, and I have to believe Josh Allen is consulting with the absolute best in the business, will tell you that you want to avoid going under the knife at all costs. You want to give your body the opportunity to heal itself naturally. That's precisely why LeBron James sought out the LeBron James of ankle doctors, or whatever the specific phrasing was regarding his foot or ankle issue. The medical advice he received was unequivocal. Don't do surgery. Just wait. Let it heal. And the reason is fundamental. You do not want to cut your body open if you can possibly avoid it. You don't want to create scar tissue. You don't want to introduce additional inflammation. You are literally ripping through layers of muscle and tissue. It's not something you do casually. Any competent physician approaches surgery as the absolute final option. And yet, Josh Allen had surgery. That's a real, tangible event. It happened. It's not nothing. I also need to address something Brew was discussing regarding Sean McDermott and the Bills' defense. This idea that McDermott has been holding that unit together through sheer will or expertise. I have to push back on that characterization quite strongly. That defense has been a significant, recurring liability in the biggest moments, most notably in the playoffs. I don't care about them shutting down the offensively challenged Miami Dolphins or the dysfunctional New York Jets during the regular season. Those games are meaningless in this context. What matters is the playoff performance, and that defense was an absolute joke against the Denver Broncos. A complete and total joke. So the idea that bringing in a new defensive coordinator who can actually scheme up pressure and cause problems for opposing offenses is a negative? No. That should be viewed as a potential upgrade. That's a positive development. Regarding the offensive transition with Brady, I think the concerns are being overstated. We've certainly seen instances where coordinators who found success in one situation fail miserably when thrust into a new environment. But that's not the scenario we're looking at here. Brady has already worked intimately with Josh Allen for multiple seasons. He's been in the building, he knows the personnel, he knows the verbiage, he knows the nuances of what works and what doesn't. That transition is not going to be a difficult one. Even if he ultimately proves to be a mediocre head coach in terms of media relations or game management, that's a separate skill set from coordinating the offense. It's completely different from a coordinator who had success with, say, Josh Allen in Buffalo, then goes to a situation like the Carolina Panthers, where they've just drafted a rookie quarterback. The owner is, to put it charitably, unconventional, and the overall roster is a mess. In that scenario, you might look at the coordinator and say he's not as good as he was in Buffalo. But the accurate assessment is that he was thrown into an impossible situation. That is categorically not the case with Brady and the Buffalo Bills. There is no chemistry that needs to be built from scratch with Josh Allen. There's no newness to the offensive system in that regard. Now, is there going to be a learning curve associated with the broader responsibilities of being a head coach? Managing the clock, calling timeouts, overseeing both sides of the ball while still calling plays? Absolutely. There will be challenges. Is it going to be smooth sailing from the very first snap? Probably not. But the idea that this is going to be an absolute catastrophe, a complete nosedive where everyone is screaming that he just can't handle it? I find that incredibly difficult to believe. If he were going to Las Vegas, where they're drafting a new quarterback and rebuilding the entire roster, then yes, that's a much heavier lift. Clint Kubiak, for example, has his work cut out for him in a way that Brady simply does not. That's just a factual statement. If anything, the appropriate stance is one of cautious optimism. You're hiring a new defensive coordinator who should, in theory, improve a unit that has underperformed in critical moments. You have an offensive head coach who will be working directly with management, ownership, and the general manager to make more informed decisions on that side of the ball, whether it's in free agency, the draft, or player development. Those are all reasons to be optimistic. But it's also a wait-and-see proposition. I do believe this Bills roster needs to get better. The defense needs an infusion of talent. The offense could use some upgrades as well. Improvement is needed on both sides of the line of scrimmage. I'm genuinely excited to see what the final product looks like after the offseason moves are made. Right now, though, there are significant question marks surrounding both franchises. When you look at the Patriots and the Bills side by side, there's no obvious predetermined path for either team to get demonstrably better. There's no certainty like, well, the Bills are drafting in the top 10, so they're obviously going to take this specific left tackle, and their offensive line is going to be dramatically improved as a result. There's no glaring, predictable move that we know either team is guaranteed to make. So both teams are in a similar position. We're all waiting to see what they do in the offseason. What are they going to do in the draft? Who are they going to target in free agency? There are no obvious reasons why one team is going to take a massive leap forward. And equally, there are no obvious reasons why one team is going to fall off a cliff. No star players retiring unexpectedly. No aging veterans whose bodies are clearly breaking down. Given that level of uncertainty on both sides, it absolutely makes sense that the Buffalo Bills are installed as the favorites in this matchup. You have seen Josh Allen perform at an elite level with unwavering consistency, year after year after year. That track record matters. It carries weight. And that's ultimately what these predictions are based on. But those are just my thoughts, and I'm genuinely interested in hearing yours. What do you think about this dynamic? I actually find myself almost wishing the Bills weren't the favorites, because it would provide an opportunity to highlight the lack of consistency in how these narratives are applied. I wouldn't be the one screaming about disrespect if Josh Allen wasn't favored. I wouldn't be on here saying, this is an absolute disgrace. How dare they not make Josh Allen the favorite? Which is precisely the reaction we saw from Nick every single week regarding Patrick Mahomes. How are the Chiefs not favored against the Bills on the road? This is disrespectful. This is bulletin board material. And my response to that was always, I don't know what to tell you. Maybe it's because the Bills are the better team at this moment. Maybe it's because Josh Allen is playing better football than Patrick Mahomes right now. It's not complicated. So let me know where you stand. I read every single comment that comes through, whether you're in agreement with my perspective or you think I'm completely off base. Either way, let's use this as an opportunity to generate some real discussion. Let's get into some spirited debates, some friendly fights over football opinions. But ultimately, let's remember to have some fun with it. And please, if you're enjoying the content, do consider subscribing to the channel. We're in the process of building an incredible community here, and I would genuinely love to have you be a part of it. My goal is to create something that we all feel connected to, something we're all excited to be part of. I believe we're making real progress toward that vision. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It genuinely helps with visibility and, navigating the algorithm. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.